For the last year after the Las Vegas shooting, bump stocks have been the fashionable target for gun control activists, sort of a novelty item that allows a shooter to utilize the recoil of a semi-automatic rifle to create a forward and backward bumping action, bouncing the trigger off the shooter's finger to create an effect similar to automatic fire. I say novelty because these items aren't popular with serious shooters. They're basically just gags to get some kicks at the range. If your purpose is marksmanship, you're not going to be using a bump stock. And because of that lack of precision, it's debatable whether or not these bump stocks actually make a weapon more dangerous or more lethal necessarily. It's only in a unique situation, like Stephen Paddock high above that crowd in Las Vegas, that spraying bullets aimlessly is an effective way to kill people. Still, efforts to ban the sale and possession of bump stocks have been politically popular on a bipartisan basis. The president has been in favor of it for the last year, the NRA supported the concept, and Republicans in Congress and in state legislatures across the country have also voiced support, under the thinking that these bump stocks are just circumventions around existing federal law against machine guns. Beyond the battle of gun control generally, additional controversy arises in how the president is choosing to accomplish this ban. Since the spring, he has pledged to ban bump stocks through executive action.
And don't worry about bump stock, we're getting rid of it, where it'll be out. I mean, you don't have to complicate the bill by adding another 2 paragraphs. We're getting rid of it. I'll do that myself, because I'm able to. Fortunately, we're able to do that without going through Congress.
I disagree with the president here. I don't think the executive action he's describing is legally sound. I've already done a full video explaining why, so I won't repeat myself, but I will link that video atop the description if you want that full explanation. The short version is the president thinks he can just lump bump stocks into existing federal law against machine gun possession. The trouble is, the existing definition of machine gun in those laws is guns that shoot multiple rounds with a single trigger function. And that's not what a bump stock does. It just maximizes the speed of each individual trigger function. But even when equipped with a bump stock, a semi-automatic gun still fires 1 round per trigger function. And thus, if you want to regulate it, you gotta write a new law. The president can't simply ban things because they're close to something Congress has already made illegal. That is far too sloppy of treatment for the Constitution and its separation of powers for my liking. Regardless, banning bump stocks through this questionable executive order process is the path the president intends to take. And according to this CNN report, he's ready to do that imminently. And this report contains a new piece of information about the ban that makes it even worse. According to a source familiar with the new rule, bump stock owners will be required to destroy or surrender the devices to authorities. Members of the public will be given 90 days to turn in or otherwise discard their bump stocks. I should mention this claim is disputed by a Trump campaign manager. He says that is not the case. The new rule will only apply to new sales, so we'll have to wait and see. But if the CNN report is true, this bump stock ban will be retroactive, meaning it will require the surrender of previously legally owned property, not just a ban on future manufacture and sale. And worse still, this report contains no mention of compensation for your legally owned bump stock surrender, just a requirement that you surrender it or immediately become a criminal. So I have all kinds of philosophical problems with how the president appears to be handling this issue. But this report got me thinking about the practical end of it. Will this bump stock ban actually have any beneficial effect? And TLDR, as with most gun control efforts, the answer is no. But the details about why are worth sticking around for. Several states have already taken action against bump stocks ahead of the federal government. By my count, 11 states and a few localities have passed legislation to ban them. There are other states where laws are in process or the legal status of bump stocks is unclear, but we're looking at least 11 states where these things are already illegal to possess or sell. And like Trump may be doing, all of these laws are retroactive. They make possession of a bump stock illegal. Even if you had it last year legally, it's now illegal this year. Therefore, you must surrender it to the government or destroy it. Some of these states are offering buybacks. In some states, it's just on you to get rid of it. And in some cases, the police will accept them from from you without any criminal charges. A lot of these laws are just too recently enacted to judge any effect, but a good portion of them have been on the books for most or all of the year, and state efforts to confiscate or buy back bump stocks have yielded basically no result. The numbers are just flat out silly. Delaware is the current frontrunner, buying back all of 31 bump stocks from its citizenry, and the drop-off is steep from there. In Massachusetts, 3 people have surrendered bump stocks to the authorities. In Vermont, 2. New Jersey was one of the first states to act against bump stocks after the Las Vegas shooting. Residents there had until April to surrender them, and not a single person did. The same goes for the city of Denver, which enacted its own law, and not a single person showed up to comply. Now, of course, we have no way of knowing how many people are disposing of their bump stocks on their own, just tossing them in the trash without showing up to the police, but a lot of these jurisdictions are offering buybacks. If you're not showing up to collect your $100 government check for your bump stock, I have a hard time believing you're just throwing it away for free. And consider those numbers in perspective. So far, we've accounted for about 40 bump stocks voluntarily surrendered to police, but ATF estimates are up to 520,000 of them in possession nationally. If compliance in these gun control friendly states is that low, it stands to reason it's gonna be even lower in other states where gun rights are much more ingrained in the culture. And if people are just hanging on to their bump stocks rather than turning them in, that got me wondering, are the police actually arresting people for bump stock possession in these states? And what would that even look like? Are they going to get a warrant to search your house on the suspicion that you have one? How many of these arrests have there actually been? I scoured the internet for quite a while, and I've found exactly one case. It was a couple from Texas caught in a Massachusetts hotel room with an impressive weapons cache that included suppressors, grenades, and according to this report, an assault rifle, but I'm not sure if they mean an automatic rifle or just a semi-auto with super scary attachments. That couple is now facing dozens of charges for possession of illegal weaponry in Massachusetts. The possession of the bump stock is just one of them. That is the only charge in the entire country for bump stock possession that I can find, even though in many states, laws against bump stocks have been on the books for most of the year. And while there are isolated examples of people committing other crimes with bump stocks in their possession, charges for that possession didn't happen because the devices aren't illegal in those jurisdictions. The point remains, because even where they're illegal, police aren't actively enforcing laws against bump stocks, because unless you're going to search every home for them, it's mostly unenforceable. And speaking of bump stock crime, isn't murder with bump stocks the entire reason we're banning them? How common is that anyway? We know from FBI crime reports that rifles account for only 300 or 400 murders nationally per year. Rifles equipped with bump stocks would be a small fraction of that. But I actually can't find another example of bump stock equipped murder beyond Las Vegas in any recent year. Maybe I missed it. But even if it's out there, or even if Stephen Paddock inspires a few copycat killers in the near future, bump stock equipped murder is exceptionally rare and statistically insignificant in the 15,000 or so murders that occur nationally every year. And there's one last piece of irony to this bump stock fever as well. The whole point of it is reducing bump stock possession, reducing the weapons on the street, as the politicians like to say. But there's plenty of evidence that this regulatory effort has actually produced the opposite effect. During the research for this video, I came across all kinds of anecdotes about bump stock sales spiking in the last year. It happened in Florida where they banned them.
I saw some increase in calls.
Guns Galore owner Al De La Torre tells 8 on Your Side he saw more interest in the devices when talks turned to banning them.
And in Illinois, where they're trying to ban them. And on national gun sales websites, prices soared due to increased demand. So just to recap, nobody's surrendering their bump stocks even when you ban them. Nobody's arresting anybody for bump stock possession when you make them illegal. Nobody's killing anyone with bump stock equipped weapons anyway. And all this bump stock fever has actually increased demand for them, increased sales of them, increased circulation and possession of them. The effort to ban bump stocks has done the exact opposite from what the politicians wanted to do. Yet they still hold press conferences congratulating themselves for supposedly doing something positive for the country.
And with that, I'm going to sign this bill, and we can take another step towards less violence in the state of Washington. Thank you very much.
And I suspect these optics are behind the president's political calculation. He thinks he can throw this gun control crowd a bone that's easy and doesn't really affect anyone. And then in 2020, he can point to how he helped them and how he was a moderate. But the troubles with this political strategy are two. Firstly, to that particular audience, there is nothing Trump could do to earn their favor. He could personally pluck every AR-15 from every gun-owning home in the country. They would still give him no credit, and they will never vote for him anyway. Secondly, appeasing that crowd with a small gesture only helps them along their path that goes much further than the bump stock ban. The bump stock ban is not an end. It is a means to an end. Their activists say so explicitly.
When they give us that inch, that bump stock ban, we will take a mile.
This bump stock ban will take effect, and shockingly, the next shooting won't use a bump stock. So the discussion will be about how we're still one law short of progressive utopia, and it's on to the next thing we gotta ban. What's most frustrating about this story is I don't even care about bump stocks. I'm not gonna buy one, whether they're legal or illegal, because to me, they're impractical for sporting or defensive purposes. But if that's how you get your kicks, go right ahead. I don't care. I'm not gonna try to stop you. On a surface level, this issue is stupid. It's basically about a dumb toy. But the way the story has developed challenges important issues at the core of our country and its values. Do you have a right to weapons and to defend yourself as you see fit? Or not? Do you have the right to your property without involuntary or uncompensated seizure or not? Can the president unilaterally make law himself or not? And do the data matter in our assessment of risk in deciding what freedoms the citizenry ought to retain or not? These are the questions I wish the president would be asking, instead of throwing bones to a dog pound that assuredly plans to eat him alive anyway. Thanks as always for listening and for supporting this channel always. Appreciate that thoughtful discussion down below, and especially over on Twitter. That is at ML Christiansen. You're always welcome to come hang out and chat in my live streams. Those are linked down in the description. Looking forward to it. Goodbye.